Hey, hi everybody. Uh, so I am Judith. I have been sober for, I think it might even be 48 years now. I came in the program in Overeaters Anonymous. I couldn't stop drinking, so I added AA, and now I'm really involved in Al-Anon, and I've done a lot of program over the last almost everything. I know a lot about sex addiction because of other people. Um, I know about gambling anonymous because of other people in my life. So I'm pretty well versed. Um, and today, uh, confirm your speaking language. Can someone do that for me? Or do I have to do that? I have a little message. Ugh, all right, just a second. English, it's right up at the top here. Dave. All right. Um, Today we're going to talk about step 9. I just have to give a little caveat. I'm in the middle of taking apart my house of 20 years. We're moving in May. I am moving, not probably. I am moving to Los Angeles. So I feel very ungrounded right now because I'm in the in between, my house is taken apart. So I'm asking my higher power and my higher consciousness to help me give a talk today when I'm feeling a little wobbly myself. Okay, so we're going to work on step 9. And I'm into these PowerPoints. When I speak live, I used to write on a paper because I'm a visual learner. And there are some problems with the PowerPoint that you can't see me, etc. But that's the way I organize my talk. So forgive me if it's not the best for you. All right, step 9, here we go. Here, let me move it around a little bit. Um, Okay, so step 9 is made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So there's a couple places in program where the rubber hits the road. These are places that are very difficult and often stop people. And there's a lot of procrastination. And you have to have a lot of courage and perseverance and support to get through these little roadblocks of difficulty. And I would say one is doing your step 4, but that's pretty, what's the word? Scary, and people don't want to do it. Sometimes it takes years before someone's willing to do step 4, which I don't suggest. I think it's important to kind of go through all the steps, even if you do it a little bit superficially within a year or two. Then you can go back and deepen every step. And I think of the steps as sporadic. I've gone through them many times. I've done many 4 steps. And each time I do it, it gets a little deeper, more sophisticated, more subtle, more exacting. And so that's how I work my steps. So right before step 4, I think is a pretty of a hard place. And I really think right before step 9 is a really hard place. I think people are afraid to do direct amends. And partially for me, it's because I don't want to admit that I made a mistake, that I have flaws. I was brought up in a household of perfectionism. If you showed your flaw, it would be used as a weapon against you. So I never admitted I was wrong, and I never either I apologized for being alive, like a victim, or I wouldn't apologize. I wouldn't even know if there needed to be an amend. So working the steps has really helped me learn how to be more humble, how to have more humility, how to say, yeah, I do things that hurt other people, and I do things that hurt myself. And in order for me to feel at peace and have freedom in my life, I have to move past that. I have to forgive, I have to accept, and I have to make restitution for the things I've done wrong. So that's what I call the rubber hitting the road. I took this from one of our literatures, which is the kind of the steps of step 9. You acknowledge a specific harm you have caused, you apologize, you make appropriate restitutions, taking direct action to remedy the damage you've caused or to repay the losses that were caused. And you have to change your behavior going forward. I think I already said that. Oh, I love this part. There are certain words that have become very important to me in my spiritual life, and they're in this middle section here. Accountability. So I've learned a lot about accountability with the amends steps that I have to own up to, I have to acknowledge, and I have to change the things that have hurt other people in my life. And if I am more accountable to myself, to my sponsor, to my group, to my family, it goes on how you can be accountable. And also accountability for me means that I'm in alignment with my values, that I'm not doing things that aren't in alignment. So alignment has become a very important word. I forgot to put it in there, but I want to be spiritual. This is a spiritual principle that my actions are in alignment with my values, and that alignment produces my accountability. It also it's the essence of becoming integrated, having a person of integrity. Isn't that beautiful? A person of integrity. I would like to be that. And I wasn't always, because I lied. I lied, omitted, and exaggerated a lot before I changed my behavior patterns. Dignity and surrender and humility. Doing the amends step, doing direct amends is the most challenging, and learning of what does it mean to have humility, not to be humiliated, but to have dignity in your accountability for your actions. And we're going to work, I hope we have time for a little forgiveness meditation, because I don't think you could really do good amends, loving amends, unless you've done a lot of spiritual work on forgiving yourself and forgiving the other person and asking for forgiveness. Okay, so I'm interested in direct, exacting, and simple statements. And the way that you get to a simple statement, or the way that you can get to a more concise expression of your amend, is by working the previous steps. So I just want to say, you can't do amends unless you've worked the previous steps. And 1 through 3, you work all the time, but this is what I think about the previous steps. The 4th step should help you make, first of all, it'll help you make your list of people that you need to make amends to. And also the exact nature of your wrongs. So I think in terms of humbleness, learning to be humble, but learning how to make a really good amend is the more specific you are, not general, the more specific you are, the more the person can receive it, and also agree or disagree or however they want to react. But so specificity is very important. And I think that comes from making a deep level fourth step. The fifth step, where we share it with other people, for me, that's kind of releasing the power of my emotions around the guilt or whatever I'm feeling, and getting loving acceptance from other people helps me release the feelings like I'm an awful person or whatever is coming up for you. The sixth and seventh step are about changing our behavior. And really, for me, an amends doesn't happen unless you've actually changed your behavior. This is sometimes called a living amend. And also for me, changing my behavior, oh, I've said this before, that's a maintenance step for me. That I've never heard people talk about it that way, except I heard one speaker talk about it. It really stuck with me. Is I'm doing 6 and 7 every day, all the time, becoming willing to behave differently, becoming willing to have a softer affect, to be more loving, and to interrupt my coping mechanisms that hurt myself and other people. Step 8 is the preparatory step for step 9, and they kind of blur together for me a little bit. I think I was better this time on staying with just step 9, but maybe not, because they do blur together. How do you prepare yourself to make an amend? And the couple of things that we'll go into today are, well, getting the specificity of what you're going to say, practicing with other people what you might say, and getting their feedback of how you could say it better or say less or however. I almost never make amends right now without talking to a program person or my therapist or someone, because this is a very important step for allowing your relationships to be full and wholesome, non-codependent, and truthful. And it's hard to know how to do it. In fact, I've been studying the last 6 years nonviolent communication because I was conflict averse. I didn't want to do heavy duty discussions with people. I didn't want to admit what I did wrong. I didn't want to confront other people with their behavior. And so I've had to really study, how do you have a conversation with these very difficult situations, difficult people, and how do you do it without hatred, anger, and resentment being the foremost emotions? Now I want to do them from my heart. I want to do them with kindness. But that doesn't necessarily mean I don't tell them what I'm authentically feeling. There's a word in Buddhism called fierce compassion. And fierce compassion has a strong dollop of honesty. So it's a real art. It's a real art to do repair work with relationships. It's a real art to be in a dialogue with what we call in Buddhism the difficult person. And that's why, for me, step 9 is very exciting now after all these years. Usually I was afraid of it, but now I feel like it's kind of the pinnacle of my program is, can I really be in dialogue with someone that I have a difficult relationship with? Can I make my speech so that they can hear it? Can I be accountable for what I've done? But also, if I need to tell them something, how do you do it without being violent or ruthless or mean? So it's very challenging. And so a lot of this is done in step 8, getting ready to know how you're going to approach someone. And step 9 is the actual direct amend, the living amends. And we're also going to study or talk about later indirect amends. I think I have talked already about allowing yourself to be embarrassed, because that will cultivate your humility. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you. The next is about taking your own inventory and not taking the other person's inventory. Is it possible in this situation to make a scrupulously honest admittance of our wrongs? Again, this is tricky because a lot of the time, the relationships that I'm involved in are people have done bad things, both people. It's very rare for me when I don't think the other person hurt me too. I usually think it's it takes two to tango. So classically, traditionally, in 12th step, in the 9th step, they say don't talk about the other person, just talk about yourself. And I think that's a good place to start. And especially if you're new to making amends, just stay on your own side of the street and don't do confrontation at the same time you're making an amends. However, now, after 50 years, after studying and after having really wanting to have authentic mediation conversations with difficult people, now I work on, and I do this beforehand, I work on what am I going to say, and am I going to say anything truthful about them? Or, it's a lot about impact. Their intention might have been okay, but the impact that it had on me needs to be said. And you can do that without accusation or pointing fingers. So, as I say, it's an art about it. But basically, you don't take the other person's inventory. So the next little section here is about except when to do so would injure them or others. So again, this is a big gray area. This is a big gray area, and it has to be artfully done, and you should talk about it with a lot of people before you decide. So these are things like, have you had an affair? Okay, do you tell your wife? Do you tell? I mean, what is the most helpful? What would help the relationship the most? And it needs to be discussed. Also, going to jail. I don't know, I've been around AA and NA long enough to have been with people who did a lot of criminal activity. And they have to determine with their sponsors, with all the people that are helping them, what is the best way for them to make restitution. Sometimes it's not to go to jail. It's to stay with your family, to change your behavior, to make indirect amends to people. Sometimes that's the right choice. And I also have known many people who have gone to jail because they're working their program, and then they do 12-step work in jail and come out. So these are heavier duty topics about it, but some of you might be in that situation. Is this the right timing for the other person? So timing of making amends is very important, and you should consider your own timing and also the other person's timing. Are they in a place where they could receive the amend? And Buddha talked a lot about this in right speech, that the timing of right speech is very important if it's going to be positive and beneficial. And just the last sentence is making amends. We don't want to make things worse. And as I say that, I think, yes, but sometimes things do get worse because you can't control, this I know from Al-Anon, how the other person responds. So that goes into this paragraph. You do not want to go into an amends with an expectation of how the other person is going to respond. They might not accept your apology. They might respond with a lot of anger. They might hang up the phone if you're doing it, or leave the restaurant. There's a lot of things that can happen when you're confronting the difficulties of your past. So I have to be able, and this is something also I'm learning more recently in the last 10 years, I would say, is how do I hold my center when someone's yelling at me or someone's criticizing me, or there's a lot of intense emotions coming at me. Now, I used to be afraid of that and I would leave. I used to not be able to say, that's what they're feeling. What am I feeling? Can I be grounded as I'm getting this response? There's a beautiful image of be like a sail, like a sailboat, sail with holes in it. And that this intense energy just goes through you and you don't have to pick up the energy or you don't have to respond on the same level as the person giving it to you. Again, this is something that I've worked very hard on in order to have dialogue with my difficult people. The other thing is about, I think the purpose of amends, well, the first purpose is, of course, for your own peace of mind and for your own relieving of any guilt that you did the best you could in bringing the relationship to the best possible order. So that's the main point. But there is also, I should say, there is also this idea of, could I restore or repair this relationship so that we could go on and maybe have a relationship in the future that has, the past has been discussed and maybe put to bed a little bit, and then we could have a new relationship as we go forward. So if you want to have a relationship, then this idea that I'm bringing up, which is dialogue or being able to withstand the conversation, is kind of important. And the last sentence here, we don't need the other person to forgive us in order to feel like we've completed step 9. So these relationships don't have to be resolved. The other person doesn't have to forgive you. But what you have to say to yourself is, I tried to do my best. I apologized in a very specific way. I did it from my heart, from kindness. And if there is no relationship, I have to accept this and go on. Oh, this is a nice line I took from one of our books. If they don't accept our apology or restitution, we release these people with love. We release these people with love. Okay, so now we're going to stop a little bit because we're going to do a meditation now. And this is really step 8, I guess, because this is what you do in preparation for going into a step 9. And in the Christian language literature of 12-step program, it often says you pray for them. And I really think this is a good idea before you make amends. Sometimes for a week, sometimes for a month, sometimes for a year. In a very difficult amends, it might take you a long time to prepare yourself to be able to say something succinctly and from your heart. This is one of the ways we've done this before. I think it was in step 5, we did the forgiveness meditation, but because it's pretty important, we're going to do it again, but not too long, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I have to see how it goes for me. But this is, well, there are different types of meditation. There's a quiet one where you don't do anything, but you're receptive, you receive. And this is more of what I would call a contemplative meditation, where you're focusing your mind on a certain prayer or theme or quality. And we're going to do this meditation focusing on the quality of forgiveness. And it has 3 parts, although I'm not sure if I'll do all 3 parts, but I just want to make sure. The traditional forgiveness meditation is asking for forgiveness, which is kind of what an amends, a classical amends, is you're asking for the other person's forgiveness. But it is dependent on forgiving them, especially if they don't receive your apology, and also for forgiving ourselves. And I sometimes feel that's the hardest one for me. Loving myself is very hard after so many years of saying I'm the problem and that I don't deserve happiness. Now that has pivoted around through programs, through Buddhism, through therapy, all the things that I've done, that now I feel like, oh, I deserve serenity. I deserve to be in peace. I deserve to have a life in the field of love. Love for myself, love for others. And in order for me to get there from where I came from, I have to do a lot of forgiveness prayers, metta, loving kindness prayers, equanimity prayers. I do this a lot. So let us do it. Is that okay? It won't be longer than 10 minutes. So please find a position you would like to meditate in. And place your attention on your breath for a little bit. Just seeing if you can calm yourself down. I need to calm down because I've been talking. Just calming down through your breath, feeling grounded. So grounded would mean that you feel your feet, your bottom, whatever is touching the chair or the floor, or if you're lying down, whatever is touching the mattress. Let the weight of your body relax into the things that are supporting you. So the chair, the mattress, the earth, the air, all of these things are supporting us all the time. And we don't even know it. So just for a moment, feel how much support there is from the universe for you to be alive. And there's a lot of support from within your body. The miracle of your body, of your heart pumping, your breath reoxygenating the blood, your nervous system, the brain, digestion of your food. So much miracle and support happening right at this moment. So invite yourself to relax into the support that is actually happening is always happening, but is happening in this present moment. Now, I'd like you to recall a moment of kindness in your life. It can be a very small moment, like petting your dog, or it can be a big moment where you really realize someone was being kind to you or someone was being kind to someone else, but you noticed that there was kindness happening. And sometimes our past is so difficult, it's hard to find a kind moment. And if that is the case for you, just please ask that you really want to know and feel what kindness is like. So that's where you can start, is asking that this is something you want to know. What does it feel like in your body when you have touched kindness? And kindness, love, loving kindness, gentleness, softness, all these words that I never knew anything about, that I had to cultivate in myself, those words can lead you to a feeling of forgiveness or the field of forgiveness. There is a field, spiritual field. It's way beyond your ego, way beyond right and wrong and stories about the past. It's a very spiritual, energetic field. And when you're in that field, it doesn't feel that difficult to forgive. It naturally arises that when you're feeling loving kindness, when you have some compassion for the difficulties of the world, you can touch into forgiveness. It's beyond your conceptual mind and thoughts, and the field of forgiveness is in the heart. Someone in my Al-Anon group says over and over, you can't forgive from your head, but you can forgive from your heart. So I'd like you to pick one of your difficult people, maybe not your most difficult because you're just learning this. So a minor difficult person. And just visualize that person in front of you and allow this person and you to be surrounded by this field of kindness or field of forgiveness or heart-centered energy. And then I'm just going to read twice through this paragraph. This is traditional Buddhist forgiveness practice. And the first one we're going to do is asking for forgiveness, which is the main point of an amend. There are many ways I have hurt or harmed you. I have betrayed or abandoned you through thought, word, or deed. knowingly and unknowingly, through action or inaction, out of fear, pain, and confusion, I now ask you to forgive me. I now ask you to forgive me. Please forgive me. And now we're going to move to forgiving ourselves for whatever we've done. There are many ways I have hurt myself, many ways I've betrayed or abandoned myself, knowingly and unknowingly, through action or inaction, out of my fear, pain, or confusion. I have hurt myself, and I hurt you. But right now, I really want to forgive myself. I extend a full and heartfelt feeling of forgiveness to myself. I forgive you, and then I usually say my name. I forgive you, Judith. I forgive you. And I kind of wrap myself and wrap the other person in this feeling of kindness or gentleness or mercy. This has a lot to do with the understanding of dukkha, or the pain of the human world. That we do hurt each other and hurt ourselves, knowingly and unknowingly, over and over. It's part of being human. But also, we humans can live in this field of kindness. That is what is really spiritual. That's a spiritual path, to live in a field of kindness and a field of forgiveness. And when you want to, you can come back, open your eyes. Oh, this is what's hard about being on Zoom, is you do something deep and then you have to keep going without interaction. But I'll just say I love that meditation. I often do loving kindness meditations. Often. There's some beautiful ones by Aya Kema on Insight Timer, where she builds this flower garden in your heart. And then you take the flowers and you give it to everyone you know and people you don't know. It's just a beautiful, beautiful practice of loving people instead of hating people, which I've done a lot of. Okay, we just had a little bit more to cover. I don't even know if I can go on after that, but I can. Let me take a drink. So these are very important to me. Living amends, I've already talked about this. That step, what is it, 6, 7? Step 6 and 7 are something that you're doing constantly. Not doing your old behavior and bringing forth kind, spiritual, wholesome principles. Practice these principles in all of our affairs. So that's a very continuous thing. And I have made, let's just take an example of making amends to my brothers. And I think they've done a lot of harm to me. It took me a long time to figure out what I had done to them that hurt them, that made them feel isolated, that made them feel less than. There's a Buddhist precept that you don't put yourself above and other people below. And I did that a lot with my brothers because I was so angry at their behavior. I was very self-righteous with my brothers. So I have made amends to them. That's my side of the street. We've also, in certain situations, have talked about what they've done to me. But I had made very clear apologies for my behavior. And now what's very important for me is that I don't exclude them. I call them every now and then, and I don't treat them like imbeciles, and I know what they should do. That I treat them with respect and love, and I don't try and control them. And that's a living amend. I also feel that with my sons. There's a lot I have to do when I'm with them so that I don't do the same, I was going to use a swear word, same stupid behavior over and over. And then I have to make amends over and over. And you know what? If you have to make amends over and over and apologize constantly, nobody's going to believe you anyway. They don't care. You're stupid. It's stupid to apologize 30 times for the same thing. So you have to go back to 4, 5, 6, and 7 so that you don't have to apologize for the same thing over and over. And then there are non-direct ways to make amends. Again, the step says that if you can, you should make your amends face to face. Okay, we got that. But there are certain things where you can't. One is if it would hurt the other person more than it would help. If it would make the situation worse, or if the other people have died, or they live in China, or you can't get a hold of them. There are a lot of situations where you can't make direct amends. So I have done a lot of amends that are indirect. Writing a letter, going to the gravesite and reading a letter, making a ritual, burning letters. There's a lot of rituals that you can do that will help you feel like you made a restitution. Also, if you want to, another, is doing something that they would like, giving to a charity that they would like, or, going to a food shelf. If they were a person who didn't have enough food, that you would do something that you're doing in their honor. I guess in Buddhism, you might call that sharing the merit with the person you're trying to make amends to. I did a lot of weird amends when I was younger and really working the step. One is a ritual, more like a ritual. I was very wounded in middle school. And I can say, who isn't wounded in middle school? That's a terrible time in one's life. And I had some sexual abuse when I was in 7th grade. So it was really a terrible time. And during this amends making, this is when I think I was in my 30s, I actually flew back to my hometown and I went to my middle school and I walked the halls of my middle school thinking about forgiveness and kindness and accepting how mean people are when you're 13. And that was the amends that I went to the high school, the junior high, and I walked the halls. I've done a lot of amends like that. Okay, so the promises come after step 9. What do I want to say? I guess I'm finishing up now. This is my conclusion. I don't feel now, after whatever it is, 47 years of working program, that there's anyone in my path that I haven't actually done something directly or indirectly about. There's a lot of people that I've kept in my life, my brothers, my sons, my husband, my girlfriend, cousins, that I'm working pretty consistently on living amends. It's amazing. When you open your heart, it's amazing how much, like, for example, my brother's 2 grandsons are getting bar mitzvahed. And my whole family, who I come from a very abusive situation, my whole family's coming. The cousins I haven't seen in years and everything. And I'm actually looking forward to it. Could I go with an open and loving heart? Having enough protection. I know I have to defend myself against mean people, but in my heart, could I make amends by not excluding them from my heart? By being more open, by being interested in, wow, we're old now. What happened in your life? And that would be a type of amends to my history. And so I've done a lot of amends. I can't think of anyone. I did my list actually long ago, but it's very alive. Who I need to make amends to in my current situation and this living amends. I think I mentioned last time the Dalai Lama's who's able to love everybody, even his enemies. Like, whoa, that's a spiritual person who has an open heart and a heart that's forgiving of the human condition. The human condition, which has dissatisfaction, pain, and dukkha in it. So if you're wholehearted about steps 1 through 9, including 9, the bugaboo, you will start to be feeling this spiritual experience, this open-heartedness, this change in your life, this transformation in your life. You will know a freedom and a new happiness. You will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. You can comprehend the world's serenity and you can know peace. And this happens after step 9. Okay, so I'm going to take a little risk here. I've been playing music sometimes, and the music has usually been meditative music, chants. But I found this song about let go and let God, which I was nervous. I played it to my husband. I said, do you think I could actually play this? And he was really positive about it. So it's actually it's a gospel song, an American gospel song about let go and let God. So it's about 5 minutes. So you could get up and dance, or you could clap, or you could sit and smile because it's a very fun piece of music. I used to, in the mornings after I did my little meditation routine, I would walk down. We live in the country, so it's a couple minutes to walk down to the mailbox to get the newspaper. And I used to play this like 2 months. I played this in my ears and I would dance down to the mailbox, get the newspaper and dance back just to uplift. In Buddhism in Buddhism, they call it gladdening the mind, gladdening the mind, uplifting the mind. And sometimes music does that for me.